Ladies and gentlemen, very warm welcome to all of you. Winter is here. It's freezing, it's cold. Yes. But, why not? Could be worse. It's not wet. And we enjoy, hopefully, also a little cozy time before Christmas. So, we have a collaboration between the Zurich Literaturhaus and the Swiss Institute of International Studies, Schweizerisches Institut für Auslandforschung, for quite a long time. And I'm very happy that we have that with Nicola Steiner and Isabel von Lanten. And I would like to thank you, both of them, that they do a wonderful job and allow us to sometimes be here too with you. My name is Martin Meyer. I'm the chairman of the Swiss Institute, Präsident des Vorstands. And, we greet, of course, our guest of honor. And it's an amazing pleasure to have this wonderful lady here, Sima Samar. She's a writer, she's a Dr. Sima Samar actually, a diplomat. She was a secretary in the government of Afghanistan for a certain time. She's a writer, she's much more besides. Again, give her a huge hand. When we met for the first time, I think it was in May or so, in a wonderful garden of a friend of us who is also here, and talked about your commitments, and I thought this is an absolute must to have you here for your new book and discussion, because it's a unique opportunity to see how the world works if it's not little Zurich downtown. Sima Samar was born in 1957 in Ghazni, Afghanistan. She belongs to the country's third largest ethnic group, the Persian-speaking Shiite Hazara. She studied medicine at Kabul University and graduated in 1984. She later fled to Pakistan, where she worked as a doctor in a refugee camp, and in 1987 she founded a hospital for Afghan women and children in the border town of Quetta. From 2001 to 2002, she was a member of President Karzai's Afghan government. Shortly before the Taliban seized power in 2021, Sima left for the United States, where she has since held important positions as a reporter of human rights, including also Sudan, which, as we all know, is an extremely dangerous and exposed place. Alone that is enormous. She is currently a visiting scholar at Tufts University, and she just told me she came these days from Boston with a stop in Frankfurt. Together with Sally Armstrong, she has written a fabulous, an exciting, a wonderful, touching book, Outspoken, My Fight for Freedom and Human Rights in Afghanistan. Can you hold it for just a second that the people can see? Yeah, it's a masterpiece. The book was also published, translated into German by our friend Ann Rüffers, Rüffer und Rub Publishing Company this year, and you have the opportunity afterwards to buy this book, and Sima will sign it for you. The occasion, now that we're all here, is to talk about this amazing book, and you also have later the opportunity to ask some questions, and sees it. It's really absolutely worth it. The book is a document of overwhelming humanity in the face of political, religious, and political ideological terror that has been oppressing Afghanistan, as we know, for many, many decades, and oppressing especially women and children in particular, in an extremely brutal manner. We have no idea what there happens. So, now some first questions about your book. What motivated you to write it, and what was your target audience, and what was the reaction in general about that?
Okay. Good evening, everybody, and it's my pleasure to be here. But I can guarantee that I did not brought the bad weather to Zurich. So it's the Swiss weather and all. I think it's not only in Swiss, but everywhere. The weather is unpredictable, and that is caused by, as human being, all of us. We have share on contribution on the disasters of environment. And it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm glad that we were in the same dinner with friends, and I'm friend of Anna, and she actually brought me to the community of Zurich, although I've been here, but this is very special after the book was published. I think I wanted to write the book in my biography from the woman lens during this long conflict in Afghanistan, because we have now, it's 48 years of conflict. People's different country came with their soldiers, with aggression, with violence, and gone. But what has happened, actually, the woman lens of the conflict, or the situation of women in the country during this conflict, or outside of the country during this conflict, is not documented much. It's always the book which is written about Afghanistan is written by men, and most of the readers are also men, because the main focus was on men with their guns and their action against the USSR, and then after that among themselves, and the Taliban, and then we had the US and NATO forces in Afghanistan. And now, once again, after 20 years, we have again Taliban. And why is that happen from a lens of somebody who has been involved during all these years of conflict and suffered from the violation of human rights in my country, and millions of women who suffered under the circumstances, but they did not have the voice to. So I tried to put the truth and the reality in the ground from a feminist lens. And I'm glad that I'm here and share some part of the book with you, and I would like, hopefully you will find it worthy to read, because I think we are in different way. Yes, Swiss is quite far from Afghanistan, but we like it or not, there's a connection between the different political situation, even if it's far from your country, to the actual people and human in this country as well. So that was the reason.
That was the reason, and a little bit maybe about the reactions, especially of male readers. Do you know how they reacted in Afghanistan or across the world?
It was actually, the Outspoken was published by Random House Canada in Canada, and Saki Book in England, and HarperCollins in Australia. So far, the reaction is not that bad, although I don't follow much the social media. I'm not in social media because I'm afraid that the people, 10 people says good thing, one people who put some nasty word, then I don't want to see the good ones and not the bad ones as well. In Canada, it was the bestseller.
Bravo.
But I don't know much about the England and the Australia, but I'm going to Australia to promote the book.
Very good.
And I hope the German one will be a bestseller as well. Sorry to be selfish, but I think it's really worth to read.
But it's also addressed, of course, not only to us, but also to the Muslim world, of course, because it is some sort also of a very, very critical and severe treaty about what's going wrong there. And this should be actually also the political mission of the book, and how then people in the Arab world, for instance, or in the Muslim world react to this book. We haven't heard that you already got a Fatah like Salman Rushdie, but that might be possible. I don't know, or do I exaggerate?
I don't know exactly what is the reaction in Muslim world, but a few years ago, at least, in the Muslim world, they put me one of the 10 women who has been influential in the Muslim countries. So I don't know about the book, because when my book was published, already the war in Middle East was so bad. I don't know if the people really paid attention to my book. So I don't know yet, but I have not, at least nobody called me and said that, yeah, I'm wrong. The reason I was critical is that religion is something very personal between you and your God, and the way you practice it. But when you use it as a political tool, then it's not acceptable.
That's absolutely highly dangerous, and we know that also from Western history, what happened during the Middle Ages and till the 19th century, sometimes even how people got into fights with each other in the most bloody way in the name of their God, and their God was sometimes their other God, and then the gods started to fight with each other. But it was also a mean of oppression. It was a powerful mean to tell people how to behave, and this is, I think, one of the most important and touching aspects you describe, how this society of bearded men uses the power of religion against women and children to rule over them.
Yes, I think it's very unfortunate. I believe that the religion is for the convenience of human being, for safety of human being, and it's your personal choice how you practice it. But when you use it as a tool to control the other group, and the religion is not made to control the people, to violate the people's human rights. It actually has to facilitate the convenience of human being. And it depends how we look at the religion and how we apply the religion. Because for me, the human dignity comes first. And that is also part of the religion practically, if we interpret our religion the way we want to respect the human dignity and put humanity first.
But this is a very strong argument for enlightenment also. But if we look at Islam, for instance, I think there was never a serious movement of enlightenment towards the religion of Islam. Why is that?
I think it's not only in Islam, in any religion, when they want to use it as a political tool to control people, they misuse it. They use it violently for keeping the power and control over the people's freedom and rights.
But as we see Western history, of course, it got then more and more melted in a different way. Now the churches are almost fitness centers with not a really strong belief in the Bible and the Gospels. This is more a social engineering. But in Islam, this is actually very serious. You don't make jokes about Islam. You follow the rules. If you don't do that, you are on a certain list or you get menaced. And what is also, I would say, impressive in your book, my God, there's hundreds of situations where you were in real danger because of that. Isn't that true?
Well, I think, again, that is the question of how they use the religion
As a power
as a tool,
tool,
actually,
yeah.
to control the people. So, unfortunately, in conflict countries, and when poverty and discrimination is becoming common, then they use against people who raise their voice. And actually, when they try to threaten some people's power of control.
Then they get nasty.
Well, yes, and it's not only in Islam. I have to admit that it is in all of the religions.
Okay, still also in the Protestant Church of Zurich. Beware, be careful, and watch it clearly.
I don't know that part. I can't comment on that.
It's a little bit different, I can guarantee you that. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about the current condition in Afghanistan. I mean, the country has ups and downs and had some really good times also when you, maybe for 2 years, were at Karzai's government. But also before, you could study, you could go to university. There is a description that at a certain time you had, you could play golf, you could play tennis, and it was some sort of enlightened life, and then everything was destroyed again by the Taliban, and now again the Taliban, and what they do is getting worse and worse. How can you still entertain a little bit of hope that it ever could be better again?
Yes, Afghanistan was a poor country. It was conservative, but it was not as conservative as it is in a current moment in a situation today. But you know that war always is destructive. It's not only destroy the physical structure of a country, as we see around us, it's also destroy the relationship between the humans, between the citizens of the country. So we had some schools. I gone to co-education school 60 years ago. Can you imagine that the girls cannot go to school today? Or if my granddaughter was in Afghanistan, she was not able to go to school. And that is, again, using the issue of women's rights and access to education, particularly because they have the ignorant people use education not to empower the people, to stand against them, because education is the strongest tool for empowerment of anyone. In this country, for example, going to the school is something completely normal. It should be the same in Afghanistan. It was the same in Afghanistan, so there were no question, although there was the question of lack of facilities for the people to go to school. As I said, I gone to co-education school in very conservative part of the country, in Helmand. But currently, the girls are not allowed to go to school to get education beyond 6th grade. The only country in this planet that stop women and girls getting education beyond 6th grade. Up to 6th grade, usually, you just learn how to read and write, not more. So beyond that is the question of empowerment and standing for your rights, then it's not allowed.
If we ask very bluntly, what went wrong?
I think we were the victim of Cold War, because we had a coup d'etat in 1978 in Afghanistan, which was done by the pro-USSR, when USSR was still existing. And then we had the USSR troops in Afghanistan in support of that regime, the coup d'etat regime. And they start to violate the people's rights. People in Afghanistan start to fight against the regime because they violated the people's rights, including all the rights of right to movement, right to freedom of expression, and all those, right to exercise their religion. Going to mosque was big danger for the people. And then the people start to resist against those oppression and violation of human rights by stick and stone, not by Kalashnikovs, not by American machine gun. So people resisted against that, and the war began. Russian stayed, USSR stayed in Afghanistan for 10 years with 140,000 soldiers, discriminately bombing the villages, killing the people, arresting the people who were not with them, without any fair trial, without any file for people, not even having the list of the people that they arrested and killed.
That was also the horrible time when you lost your first husband. All of a sudden he was disappeared, and you went to the prison for, I don't know, 200 times to look for him, or if it's possible that he is still there, and you brought him fresh laundry and everything, but it's nothing like in a Kafka novel. It's absolutely horrific. At the end, you never saw him again, and I guess many other people had the same
Exactly.
experiences. So this was somehow the first decade of terrorism by the Russians, as they always do, we know now again in Ukraine. And then, of course, sort of resistance, also supported by the Americans, and this turned then out against the country again. It was kind of real bad dialectic, you know, from one hell to the next.
Yes, I think the thousands of people were arrested and disappeared. Nobody heard from their family member. My husband was taken one night from home, and I never heard where he was taken and why he was taken and when he was killed. So it's not only me. As I said, thousands, most probably hundreds of thousands. But at least I was educated and I was able to stand in my faith. So nobody knows the story of the ones who were uneducated, who had already 5, 6 children, and no means of proper living. And they still, all those thousands of stories are hidden, and we have not written about those. Then we had the opposition to the USSR, and they picked the most conservative group of people and funded them and used the religion as a tool, as a weapon of war. And they, both sides, I would say, violated the people's rights without accountability, with full impunity. And I think they did not plan for long term because nobody was thinking that the USSR will collapse quickly. So now what we see, unfortunately, the aggressive extremist is because of that wrong policy.
And men.
Yes.
Men.
Yep. Because, I mean, if you look at the photographs of Afghanistan, you only see men, you don't see women. I mean, even the United Nations and the international community, they were actually not supporting women's programs. I keep telling this story to the people. I started a girls' school, then I wrote a book for the literacy course for the girls who were already 12 or 13 years old, if they wanted to learn. This is for the refugees in Pakistan. And I wrote with the health small messages that while they were learning how to read and write, then they will get the health message also. I went to UNICEF. I said, can you print this book for me? Because we didn't have machines, photocopy machine or printing machine, anything. And they had big copy machines. He said, we are not printing any religious items. I said, it's not religious, it's more health messages. Just to give you an example, like how to stop epistaxis if your children face bleeding, how to keep yourself clean when you have your menses, when you reach on that age of puberty, and danger signs of pregnancy when they should really feel it's dangerous and they should go to see a doctor. And then he said, leave the book here and I'll ask Afghan colleague to read it, and then you come next week and we can discuss. I went and he said, well, you're talking, the last 3 pages of the book was about contraception and family planning. He said, you are talking about contraception, we cannot print this. And I said, don't put the logo of UNESCO on the cover of the book. He said, no, we have to put our logo. And I said, then don't print the last 3 pages. And he said, no, we cannot do it. That was the behavior towards women. And then when the Russians went back they took their soldiers back in 1989, United Nations Development Program started the office for Afghanistan. So I called and got an appointment. I went to see the person. I said, I'm so happy that finally we are not in emergency, we are in development phase. The Russian gone, we have the Mujahideen government, hopefully. The war already started, they banged the Mujahideen, but I was thinking that they will stop quicker. And he looked at me. I said, which kind of program you have for women? He looked at me, woman? I said, yes. He said, I was in Logar. This is one of the provinces quite close to Kabul, to the capital. I haven't seen any woman. I was in Logar for a week and I haven't seen a woman. I said, well, those heroes who kicked out USSR from Afghanistan are born from their mothers. They are not dropped from the sky. And he looked at me, he said, but I have not seen anyone. And I said, can I be one of them? Of course, I had the big scarf. I was living in Pakistan, so with the Pakistani clothes. He said, oh no, you are French. I said, from my broken English, you should know that I'm not French. And I have green eyes, but I'm Afghan. He said, oh, I'm sorry, we don't have any program for women. I said, how can you bring a development in a country without half of the population? And he was sweating because he couldn't answer all these questions. And then, after a few months, he moved to FAO. That's the other office of the United Nations for Agriculture. And then he called me, he said, Sima, I failed in UNDP, but you can come and I can give you some project in Afghanistan, but not, of course, not specifically for women, because they were distributing some improved seeds. So I can give you a project. He was always laughing. He said, you know what? You taught me a lesson. Because we came here and they were coming for Afghanistan program and they were getting briefing. Don't shake hands with Afghan women. Don't look at them. Don't do this. When they put tea on the cup, you have to drink it as 10 cup or as much as possible. I said, this is not all the culture. So what you are briefing, that was the case also with the NATO soldiers in Afghanistan. So I would say Afghanistan practically is failure of international community and Afghans and the Afghan government and the United Nations. So it's not only us.
No, of course, but it's really a toxic mix, and that makes it also so difficult to solve the problems on different levels. But as you tell us these stories, the book is full of such, I would call it, if it's a frivolous word, adventures. But if it were not for all this cruelty and horrible things which happen all the time, it has a sort of a Kafkaesque atmosphere, you know. You never can rely on anything because they say, yeah, it could be that, by that, and so your ego, your individual human person is always on the verge of, especially as a woman, on the verge of being destroyed. There's a good quote on page 50, which might explain part of your really superhuman strength. I have to say it's superhuman, ladies and gentlemen. If you,
Thank you.
If you think you are courageous because you cross the street and nothing happens, then I can tell you, read this book. This is a lesson for everybody in courage and standing up against what's wrong in the world. Anyway, page 50. By the time I was in the 11th grade, I had become a leader. You are a leader. You made it as a leader in the most difficult situation. And in the end, somehow, even notwithstanding all these dangers, they, in a way, they accepted you also. They had a huge respect for you, even probably if they wanted sometimes to kill you or abduct you or whatever. Don't you think?
Yes, few reasons. One, I don't believe on revenge. I do believe on justice, but revenge is not justice. So when the people who always critical of me, I'm not really saying, okay, critical, I don't want to talk to him or her. It's mainly the men, actually. I try to prove that I'm honest for my people, and try to reach to, particularly to the people who were in need because of my profession, because of being a medical doctor. I was running here and there, walking 12 hours to reach some patients, and unfortunately, most of the time I was reaching it. It was too late to reach, to help. And when I started the hospital in Pakistan, I was dealing with all the emergency cases. It's interesting because I had to go to emergency in hospital in the U.S., and I was sitting there and nobody was attending. I said, well, in this time I was attending 10 emergency cases. What's wrong here? Nobody is really... I went, and there was another night when I went with my friend who had allergic reaction, and they were walking around and not attending her. I said, what's wrong here? And she has allergy, and she had really patches of red on all over, but it was covered, and they were coming, do you have any problem with breathing? And they were going back. And she was okay with her breathing, but I said, show your arm, because they don't take it seriously. If somebody comes to emergency room, it's emergency. So then I said, I told her, and I told the nurse also, I said I was a medical doctor, but in the time that we waited half an hour, I was dealing with 10 emergency cases. What's going on here? And that was, I think, proved. And the people, even the one who wanted to kill me in one time, he admitted that I really respect you because you stand on your line and you don't take revenge. One of those people became the Minister of Interior in Afghanistan. So I called and I went for a discussion with him because we wanted to establish a ombudsman for police. So I was trying to explain, and he was not understanding. Well, anyway, he was thinking that we will look on all the financial issues also. And I said, we are not financial investigator. We just want to look at the violation of human rights by police. And particularly the women who were in the police should be safe and should be protected. So he said, why don't you stay for lunch? And I said, yes, why not? So I stayed for lunch. While we stand to go to the dining room, he stand and he said, please go ahead. So I walked ahead of him. When we were sitting on the chair, he pulled the chair for me, but not waited until I said. So he went and sat himself. He was sitting, and I was almost half sitting and half standing. He said, I really respect you, but you couldn't really control the warlords and couldn't do much against the warlord. I said, it's not true. You are one of them. Did you ever thought that you will stand and ask Sima Samar to walk ahead of you? And all of his few general was in the lunch. They start laughing. I said, don't say. I mean, you know that I answer quickly to your call, but isn't it true? Have you thought in your life that Sima Samar will be ahead of you and you follow her? And he said, oh, yes.
He anticipated that
Yes.
long time ago, probably.
Yes, and I said, I don't have armed group, I don't have weapons, I don't have guns, I don't have bombs, but I have this tool to protect the people. It's human rights, it's for you and for me, for everybody else in this country. I said, my strength that I stand beside the victims, beside the poor, not beside the rich.
Absolutely. Would you like to read a paragraph of the book maybe now?
I don't know, as I told you that I didn't read the books since a long time. But
You will
I
be
tried.
surprised how good it is.
Yes. There was a time that they were calling me Salman Rushdie of Afghanistan, and they wanted to kill me. So President Karzai and Lakhtar Ibrahimi, who was the special representative of United Nations, on that time Kofi Annan, and they talked together. They tried to send me as ambassador somewhere. So I read that part. By President Karzai and Ibrahimi, in order to get rid of me, and this action would be an admission to the people with guns and militias that they had won. I knew this kind of a passive response to the extremists was the wrong foundation for Afghanistan. So I stayed, beginning my work as the founding chair of the Afghanistan Independent Human Rights Commission, because both of them were saying, save yourself for the future of the country, which I said no. For someone who wanted to change the status quo, this was the perfect posting, the Afghanistan Independent Human Rights Commission, because I was Minister of Women's Affairs, and these people, even though one of them is the Minister of Interior that I mentioned, they did not wanted me to be in the cabinet. They wanted me out. So I stayed and I accepted to be the chairperson of the Human Rights Commission. I had access to justice system as well as the jail. I had the air of NATO, the United Nations, the diplomats, and the Afghan military. I had the mullahs and the politician on speed dial, but most of all, the most precious jewels in the country, the rural women and girls, their schools and healthcare centers, their treasured culture, custom, and had been buried in some cases, obliterated by the Taliban, became my preview. It was among these girls and women that I had begun my adult life as a young doctor. Now I could return to them with support from the government and the international community. I know they were the future of a successful republic. Unfortunately, we failed. But yes, I believed on peace with justice, and I still believe on peace with justice. They denied justice. And that's why we are, once again, we fall at the hand of the same people. And I think, I hope that the people learn from the mistakes in Afghanistan and do not repeat it in another country. But we see the repetition. We see the repetition.
Absolutely. And then from 1994 on, the Taliban came, and then it got even worse. And I cannot spare you some quotes from the book because it's really reality. This is on page 18. To murder women while they deliver babies in a maternity ward and claim they are doing so to serve Allah is, for civilized people, an incomprehensible stretch. This is just one example. Another one is, and that is again Orwell or Kafka or Russia, it's all the same. They established a department for the propagation of virtue and prevention of vice. May I have the book, please? Because there is a detailed list of this department on page 113.
Yes.
This is beyond.
Yeah, the attack on
So
maternity hospital.
Or for instance, there is to be no exit from homes or traveling of sisters, means females, without the escort of legal close relatives. If any music cassette is found in a shop, the shopkeeper should be imprisoned and the shop locked. But this is still harmless. And then it goes on and on to prevent washing clothes by young ladies, etc., etc. Or, this is also the mullahs, girls must be married before they menstruate. I mean, all these forced marriages, this so-called arranged marriages, arranged is a euphemism, it's forced, and you have your own experience with your sister. Maybe you can tell us shortly what happened there.
Mm-hmm. Well, my sister was the first child of my parents. According to my mother, both of them got typhoid. So they were sleeping or they were lying. When my sister was only less than a year and she crawled and wanted to reach my mother, and my father tells my uncle's wife that, can you please take care of her, then I will marry to your son. Maybe my cousin, the son of my uncle, was 5-year-old or 6-year-old. And that became the reason that my sister had to marry our cousin. And she didn't want. And although my father really tried to convince his brother not to push for this, but he couldn't convince the brother. My uncle was the elder brother of my father, and then she was married to my cousin. I was 7-year-old. I saw when my sister was crying. So for me, I thought maybe whoever gets married are crying, but she was crying because she was not happy. And my father told my brother that he is willing to give some share of his land to the brother, but not to force the daughter to marry. But my uncle got angry, and then he wanted to leave to break the brotherhood. And then my father asked my sister if she can. But she was married, and then she got pregnant. Unfortunately, she and her husband and my uncle's wife, all three got hepatitis. The other two survived, and my sister had a stillborn baby, and then she went to hepatic coma, and then she died. So now it's 58 years or something. I still have a sister in Afghanistan. My younger sister is in Afghanistan, so I was dreaming one night about my sister, which I was in 5th grade when she died. We don't have any photo of her at all, because photograph was not really a common thing in Afghanistan. Once we were all taking a family photo, but she couldn't arrive because her house was far from us. And I was dreaming that she gave birth to a boy without having heart. This is crazy. I woke up because I have my stepmother in Afghanistan who's still alive, and she's 97, so I thought maybe something happened to her. I called my sister. I said I had a strange dream. Her name was Aziza. I said, I dreamed Aziza, what's happened? And she said, yes, she went to her grave, because it's old grave, of course. Now people are trying to put another body on those places. So she said that she cemented her grave to protect. But she said that the grave of her son is lost, because the son was buried beside her. And I said, my God, what is this kind of feeling that I never thought about her, because at least on that night when I dreamed. But yes, now with the current regime, when they stop girls from going to school, it's a lot of forced marriages and a lot of child marriages, because they don't have much to do, and then the only choice when they are 14 and 15, then the family wanted to marry them. And it's sad, because it's easy to say, okay, for child marriage, but behind those child marriages are a human face and a human dignity. And as a child, when you're married at the age of 14 or 15, your whole life is controlled by the men. Men are usually 36, 40, sometimes 45-year-old. And this is a baby, a young child who's married, then she doesn't have control on her life. Everything is controlled and guided by that man. So it's a destruction for the whole nation of Afghanistan. It's not only the question, I keep saying that it's not the question of me liking or wanting the girls to go to school, or it's the problem of every household. It's a problem for the nation. What will happen? Imagine even for the boys. For the boys, the district that I come from, every year when they were Concord exam for the universities, it was at least 1,000 boys and girls who are attending the exam. This year, they said 150 boy. The girls are not allowed, but the boys were only 150. And this is actually a problem not only for Afghanistan, but for everybody, for humanity.
Yeah, I just wanted also to say that this kind of forced marriage and children education, it's not just Afghanistan and countries in the Middle East. It's parallel societies in Germany, parallel societies in France, parallel societies in England, and you have not much insight in what happens there if you don't ask some people who really know the drama which is taking place every hour. This brings me to one of the last important points. First question. I said it's amazing, but where do you take your strength to endure that, not only, but also be still staying optimistic, active, doing your things, traveling around, sitting at the literature house, tomorrow, who knows, in Vancouver, then in the White House, etc., etc. Must be some secret. You don't have to tell it if you think it's too secret, but we want to know how you can perform.
Well, one, I don't lose hope, because if I lose hope, then means that I don't exist. The second point is that I believe that no matter how cold and dark is the winter, the spring will come. And that's the nature. Whenever there's a lot of pressure on people, there's a reaction. I believe on physics and science. So when there's a action, there will be reaction. I don't know when it will come, but it will come. And also, I think the girls in Afghanistan, the difference between the first Taliban regime and the current Taliban regime. The first Taliban regime, the country was in chaos, fighting between the different political parties. There was not much of schools or health facilities or basic social services for the people. We didn't have a lot of resistance. When the Taliban said the schools are closed, the teachers in Herat, they came out and protest, but then most of their husbands were, or male member of their family were arrested. So then they didn't do. Now, this time it's different, because the last 20 years, although it was full of aggression, full of corruption, full of violation of human rights, but there was an environment that the people could exercise their basic rights. The existence of the Human Rights Commission was one of the hope for the people. So the young generation of Afghanistan got the rights to education, not very good quality, but it was, the right to education was existing and millions of children were going to school. This time, the resistance by the girls continues. They're studying online, they're trying to use every possible means. Of course, the technology also helps. During the first round of Taliban, we didn't have telephone. Now we have mobiles, different company of mobile. There's internet. They're using those internet and teaching. I just showed Anna the photo when I was speaking to the girls online. There was around 300 girls in different setup. And that is the hope. And I believe that the Afghan people has to take the lead, but I think it's a moral responsibility of everyone to help us.
World community.
And yes, the normalization of human rights violation is dangerous to humanity. And it's impact all of us. Just to end up, thank you so much. I'm not very special. What I did, everybody can do. But the environment was quite difficult in Afghanistan, and it's still very difficult.
Certainly one of the most difficult, and needs enormous amount of strength and, well, also good physical health, of course, additionally. There's a last point, which you stress several times in the book. You call it the so-called respect for the culture and religion through Western countries. And we all know that, yeah, of course, every country has its own traditions, its own rules. We have to understand they do it like that, and we do it like this, and we have to accept that. This kind of cultural relativism, which is extremely dangerous, again, also is my personal position against everything what is asked by the rules of the Enlightenment, when Voltaire says, if you can make people believe absurdities, they will do atrocities. And I remember, and you might be shocked now about that a little bit, but this is on purpose, that a very famous Swiss writer went to Iran and wrote about it, of course. And then he wrote, yeah, you know, this is in many ways also fascinating. The ladies with their burqas, you only can see these magic eyes, and it's so erotic. And that was Adolf Muschke, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's true. It's absolutely true. This is really the old white man at its worst, and we won't move the world if we still believe in this bullshit. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now you have the opportunity to ask questions to Sima, please.
Thank you very much for this very nice Vortrag. What about opposition in Afghanistan? Are there also some men, not only women, but also some men who believe that there is a change possible?
Yes, I think because the Taliban are so brutal, people are doesn't have the courage to stand. But yes, of course, what is sad. The other day I had an interview, and an Afghan journalist asked me if I am disappointed with closure of girls' schools, or if I'm disappointed with the access to health services, because I spent my life promoting education. I said, no, I'm disappointed by the inaction of the men in Afghanistan. I'm not saying that they should pick up the gun, but they can use their civil rights to protest. I keep saying, don't get out of your house for 3 days. But because of the poverty, unfortunately, if they don't get out of the house to work, they don't have food for their family and their children. Yes, there is opposition to the Taliban behavior. I'm one of them, and I think we have some Afghans in this room. We do believe on the freedom and equal rights for the people. I think the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, as we say, it's universal. Everybody has the right to equal opportunities. But unfortunately, our geopolitical location of Afghanistan has put us under this problem. Now the only country who recognizes the Taliban regime is Russia. In response to that, I said they made the same mistake as they did in 1978. Because the US recognized Syria and the Russia recognized Taliban.
All nice guys, you know.
Yes.
All of a sudden, they have the Brioni suits, huh?
Can
Yes.
I add on here on this question? There must be millions of Afghans outside of Afghanistan now, everywhere in the world. Is there any organized or any intent to organize from this diaspora an alternative to the domestic politics?
Yes, there are groups that working on it, and one of it was the conference in Vienna that you heard about it. It was few conferences in Vienna. Now they are trying to have more inclusive people. We are discussing, but honestly, the collapse was so sudden, and we were shocked. For me, as a person, I was really shocked because I resist against my own family in 80s that I don't go to the US. In this age, I had to apply for asylum. I was just telling my friend, I said, I failed twice on the road test to get my license. In this age, when I was maybe 30, was much easier to be able to drive. Yes, we are trying, but as I said at the beginning, that war is really destructive. Divided us based on gender, divided us based on ethnicity, divided us based on religion, unfortunately, and that requires some time to build the trust and confidence among ourselves and stand against ignorance. So my advice to the young Afghans is always the strongest tool is education against ignorance. I tell the girls that you have to push your brothers to teach what they learn and change every household and make it school.
Next question, please. Here.
Here and then here.
Over the past years, there were a few initiatives by Switzerland to keep ties with Afghanistan. There is an Afghanistan library. There was even the idea of setting up and building a university in Afghanistan in 2007. Do you think right now, is there any area where Switzerland could keep ties with Afghanistan besides humanitarian help and development?
Yes, I think not only Switzerland, everybody else. There are some Afghans who says not to talk with Taliban at all. I am in favor of talking with the Taliban, but principle-based. No negotiation on human rights, no negotiation on women's rights. Swiss is the only European country which has their office in Kabul. SDC opened their office last year, or beginning of this year, but last year I saw the person who was leading and the lady who was going to Kabul to open the office. And I think any country, including Swiss, has to have a better approach on humanitarian assistance. Mm-hmm. Because I was telling to the WFP and all other agencies that food for education. Instead of free bag of wheat, say that food is for education. food for building school, even if it's up to 6th grade. So I think there's a political will should be there in order to have a more constructive approach. During the first Taliban regime, it was blockaded on the Hazara area because they lost some people in Mazar and so on. So they were not allowing anything to go to Hazara area. Even they were not allowing to matches, which is really key for the people to make fire or cook or anything. We got some money from USAID when USAID was not under this condition today. We bought wool from one village. We paid some cash to the people. And we gave the wool to another village, to the females, to make a thread. We gave it to the third village to weave blankets. Then we distribute the blankets on disaster situation. In this way, we were actually supporting 3-4 villages or 4 communities with one project. Instead of, I could have bought bags of wheat and distributed to the people. But I facilitate giving them cash so they will buy what they need. Maybe they need matches. Maybe they need tea, because tea is really important part of our culture. We cannot do anything without tea.
Here too, slowly it comes also.
That's good.
Yeah.
Hier war noch eine
Healthier.
Frage, glaub ich.
Yeah, there was a
Oh,
question.
viele Fragen.
As far as I read in the papers, there is the political power actually with the highest mullah in Afghanistan. And I'm wondering why it was possible that the younger generation of the Talibans was losing its power to the old generation of the Talibans, and that this religious leader actually is dictating and shaping the politics in Afghanistan. How was it possible that he that the younger generation cannot bring some change?
There was 2 groups of Taliban. One was the Taliban, the other one was Haqqani group, which the people claim that they are the young Taliban. But it's the power struggle. Kandahar actually took the most initiative. First, he started to collect all the arms around him and give the most important military power to his people, loyal to him. And I don't think it's a big age difference between them. But there is the, let's say, aggressiveness, so they keep the group together. And they start to disarm those young ones, to limit their power. Like if there's a Minister of Interior, the Deputy Minister of Interior is loyal to Kandahar, and he has the most power rather than the one who is the minister. So that was, I think, the problem. And the young Taliban, I believe they don't have enough confidence to be able to control the country. And it's, of course, our neighboring countries are playing very dirty game in Afghanistan as well.
But you also
I hope I answered your question.
But you also see that too, is this a sort of indoctrination from the elder to the younger, which can be very strong. And if you watch, for instance, what happens within Hamas, that 8 or 6 years old are already prepared to do the worst atrocities because they are taught by the elders that this is a good thing. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your presentation. What about the young Taliban men? Do they get some kind of education, or is it just brainwashed education? We always speak about the need to get education to the women and the girls, but what about the Taliban themselves? And I heard one question. The second question, I heard that there is a striking difference between cities and the countryside, so that the Taliban are most feared and opposed, even if it's underground in the cities, but there is a certain kind of support of the Taliban still in the countryside, or was that only during the first Taliban regime? That would be interesting to know. And are the women, the girls, better off in the countryside because they just succumb to what the religious culture teaches? And also, I would like to call up, it was not mentioned today, that we all in the West have a great responsibility of what happened. I mean, the way we withdrew from Afghanistan has to be mentioned, and it's a shocking history. And I just remember some of my colleagues that are interpreters who have been left there with their families, and they've been killed by the Taliban, and the West has not helped them to get out on time. And I think the way it has happened so fast is also because the West withdrew, and we gave way to the Taliban to get in power. We have to mention that as well. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I would say that when we had all the refugees in Pakistan, the denial of a proper education or modern education to the Afghan children is one of the reasons that we have Taliban. Because of the poverty, because of the very difficult condition in the camps, the families give their sons to those madrasas, to the religious schools. They were brainwashed on those places. They grown up without having the connection with their mothers and the female member of the family, unfortunately. And they are the one who are running. I witnessed myself when I was working in the camps in 85, 86, 87, in 80s. So they are the victim of denial of education. Currently, the Taliban changed most of the curriculum of the school. They remove all the civilian teaching. They removed, if you heard recently, they removed even the books which is written about democracy, human rights, and civilized life. And they removed the books which is written by the female. No books should be seen in any bookstore or universities or schools which is written by female. They established more than 21,000 madrasas for boys and girls. For the girls, they established the madrasas in teaching them to be an obedient wife. And now we have female kind of Taliban, because they go there and it's for a young girl, which they all the time they are taught that this is in Quran, this is what has been said, and this is your job, to be obedient mother and bring children and serve your husband. Otherwise, you go to hell. So they changed the curriculum. And that is the danger. It's not, this dangerous attitude will not stay in Afghanistan boundary wall. It's already Pakistan is already in trouble with the Taliban that they thought that they will make for us only. Now they have the same problem. That is on the education. On the, yes, as I said, that it's a collective failure of all of us. And I think that's why in the book it's mentioned that the withdrawal, the approach to Afghanistan case was wrong. They didn't listen to us. Let's say the Americans were going directly to see the warlords in this city, in that city. At the end, if he was interested, coming to see the president of Afghanistan. And they were not seeing women. And maybe I was the most privileged during the first 6 months because I was vice president and I was present in different meetings. It was so critical. Because when I was nominated, I was in Canada and then I traveled to Washington. I had a meeting with Colin Powell. I told to Colin Powell a few things. One, I said, you made a mistake in Afghanistan in 1992. You left, when the Russian collapsed, you left us. And this is what happened. Two, I said, you people made these monsters for us. Three, I said, the amount of money that you spend on bombing in Afghanistan, they were still bombing Afghanistan, spent on reconstruction. And he said, do you know how much money we spend? And I said, I don't, but I know it's a lot. And honestly, the amount of money that's spent on bombing everywhere, not only in Afghanistan, in Sudan and Myanmar, you name it, can make this world different if they spend on education, if they spend on healthcare.
No question.
Thank you.
No question about that, but just one remark to this important topic of the withdrawal is very complicated, but has also been in a very detailed way analyzed by historians, and I think the Obama administration made the most mistakes on that, and there is a very interesting paper as I prepared for this evening. We couldn't touch this topic by Paul Miller, who worked for the Obama administration. It's a 10-page paper, Obama's Failed Legacy in Afghanistan. There it's everything put together. I think we have to say, we call it a night, but I hope, Sima, you are happy with this evening, and then we hope that you shall return, as General MacArthur used to say, I shall return. And it was absolutely wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a historic moment, and please read the book by heart, and you learn a lot, not only about the world, but also about yourself. And another huge, huge hand to Sima.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we wish you a happy Christmas. Those who are interested in our last evening at the Institute für Auslandforschung, we have Robert Habeck on Tuesday at the university, and he will